Welcome to day 2 of the Centre Court Specialised Masters Festival with Poets and Quants. My name is Matt Symonds. I'm a British presenter, nothing like Piers Morgan. So my panelists have nothing to worry about for the next 60 minutes, and I'm not going to walk off in a storm. Yesterday, I spent 60 minutes with 3 alums of London Business School, Imperial College Business School, and ESMT Berlin. As you think about your plans for business school, whether it's a master's in management or a master's in finance, as I've said to my panelists, this is essential viewing. They are 3 extraordinarily talented, very humble young women, already achieving great things in their career. And just the warmth, the encouragement that they then had to share about their experience. Honestly, check it out on the Poets and Quants YouTube channel. Really so much insight. And of course, it's really raised the bar as we now turn to the admissions teams of those 3 top international business schools and find out, well, you know, I want to have that sort of experience too. What do I have to do to get into the program? So I'm delighted to be joined by Stephanie Thrane. Stephanie is a senior admissions manager at the London Business School. Stephanie, it's lovely to see you again.
Thanks, Matt.
Also coming in from London and on the campus, Ollie Waite, who's an admissions manager at Imperial College Business School. It's a little quiet on the campus today, right, Ollie? You've got the place to yourself?
It is. It's just me. The lights keep going off because no one's moving around, but it's good to be here.
Right. Well, that means you can say anything in the next 60 minutes. It's not like there are thousands of people watching you. Actually, there are. So we better be careful. And joining us from Berlin, Stephanie Kluth. Stephanie is head of admissions at ESMT Berlin for the Masters in Management program, which is one of the more recent entrants into this booming market. We were saying yesterday that if you look at an FT ranking of the Masters in Management 15 years ago when they first started, I think there were only 25 schools. Now that list is up to 85 or 90. And of course, all 3 of your institutions among the top ranked with a wonderful, wonderful experience to share. We've talked about, of course, the economic conditions, you know, volatile and difficult, challenging job markets. So perhaps Stephanie Thrane, Stephanie T, if you don't mind me calling you that, just so that we don't mix up our Stephanies. Perhaps you can just give us a sense of, you know, what this admissions cycle has looked like, you know, demand for the program and, you know, where people in the world are reaching out to you for the MiM at London Business School.
Yes, happy to. So I guess both last year with the class that's currently students and then as well this year, we've been really lucky. We've seen a big increase in applications for our Masters in Management program, but really broadly across most of our degree programs at London Business School. I think this is the case for probably most of our panelists here today as well. Business schools tend to do well in sort of economic recessions, and it's a great time to go to business school. And we've seen that in terms of where are students coming from. It hasn't, obviously there are some regions of the world that have been really badly, I think, hit by the pandemic, and we have seen some uncertainty and anxiety, I would say, from certain regions, but overall, the demographic of the classes started in September have been just as global as it has been in previous years, and so far this year we have seen you know, large number of different nationalities and people being attracted to London Business School from all parts of the world still.
Right. Right. And with your team, of course, if we go back a year and we were all, you know, uncertain and, you know, quite what was going to unravel over the following year, do you feel that with this admission cycle, just in terms of the conversations you're then able to have with applicants, that they're perhaps more optimistic about, you know, what the year ahead will look like and joining you in Regent's Park?
Yeah, I think so, and I think part of that is definitely also to do with the vaccine rollout in the UK. You know, we are definitely one of the leading countries, and we have a great take-up, done really, really well. I wouldn't say we've done really, really well in other parts of the pandemic, but vaccine rollout definitely seems to be the one that we're leading on, and I definitely think that has a positive influence on what admits and applicants are hearing this year, and obviously we hope that we can return to a lot of face-to-face teaching and some of those social interactions that we know is a huge part of your business school experience.
Right. Ollie, there's a wonderful portfolio of specialized master's programs available, from environmental change, digital marketing, finance, of course, business analytics is a very popular course. And then the master's in management sort of sits in the middle of all of that. Are you similarly seeing a strong demand for the program?
Yeah, I would just echo what Stephanie has said. We've seen a huge increase in the last year in the number of applications that we're getting. I think from 2019 to 2020, we saw about a 50% increase across all programs. And some programs we even saw 100, 120% increase. So it's been really, really promising to see that, and seeing that the pandemic isn't putting people off from going to business schools. They're still, as aspirational as they always have been. So that's been really refreshing to see. We are still getting a really diverse cohort as well. I think we had 99 countries represented last year. And it looks the same this year as well. We've seen an increase in applications from Americas as well, which is an area, specifically Latin America, that we're really trying to encourage applicants to apply from. We've got a few more scholarship offerings for people from that region as well. So yeah, it's been really promising so far.
Great. And do candidates look to apply to several of the programs, or do they sort of reach out to you and say, no, clearly this is the master's program that I want?
So they actually can only apply for one of our programs. So they do need to do some research beforehand and find out whether the program that they're applying to is going to help them achieve their career goal, because that's the main thing. It's like a two-way. Are they fit for the program, and is the program going to benefit them? So that's definitely a conversation that they should have before applying. We will, if we see a really strong applicant and we just think, oh, maybe they've applied for the wrong program, particularly within kind of the finance suite of programs, we will then say, maybe they're better suited to this program, and kind of have that conversation with them as well. But generally, they should have had that initial conversation and given some thought to that.
Got it. Stephanie at ESMT, talking to Shruti yesterday, she was in the second class, I guess, 4 or 5 years ago. And the other Stephanie had said, this is, with the economic downturn, this is a great time to go to business school. But, it was a great time for her too, when you sort of hear about that. This is the idea, right? Investing in yourself, the skill sets that it's going to develop. Presumably you're seeing the same sort of demand at ESMT.
Yeah, I can only, repeat what the other panelists said, that we increasing our masters in management applicant pool. I really think that's our strongest program in that regard, to be honest. So what I found interesting when I was looking at the numbers in preparation of this panel was that the domestic applications have really increased a lot, which to me comes as a surprise, because we have a very international program. So, but it's a nice thing, to be honest, because the Masters in Management program, of course, caters pre-experienced candidates, in our case, who are looking for their first job. And when you speak German on a fluent level, of course, your chances increase a lot, to transition into your first position. Yeah.
What explains both the international demand, but as you think about the domestic demand, because the German business education, you're one of the top schools, LBS and Imperial panelists, in an established UK market, but you've really broken through, both for the MBA and now with this Masters in Management. Do you think it's this idea of getting those core management skills that might combine with other technical skills that really resonates now with the domestic market?
I think that, this, and I think we have gained and built up a reputation. Students are interested. They see like, I have good chances to find a job that matches what I'm looking for. And they get a really good service. We have close connections to industry, to various companies, and we have a very dedicated career services support. And I guess, yeah, you're right, that resonates with the students definitely also. I think it is really that they see this is a way how I can start a really good career. That would be my assumption. Yeah. Right.
A wonderful sort of accelerator at the early stages of their career. Now, Stephanie at London Business School, that idea of when to go to business school, because of course you also offer the full-time MBA program, which is in 2 years. It can be shortened, but typically the 2-year program, and you also go all the way through to the Sloan program to take in your mid to late 30s. But in terms of what the degree covers, and as a consequence, who is attracted to it, you describe it as pre-experience. Perhaps you can sort of talk about the typical sort of time when someone might consider the master's in management rather than doing an MBA 2 or 3 years later.
Yeah, so the vast majority of our MiM students will come straight out of their undergraduate degree, but we have a cap of 2 years after your undergraduate degree. So that's sort of the optimal time, I would say, to apply for a pre-experience master's degree, because it really is for someone who wants to kickstart their career, whereas obviously MBA applicants have already done that and will be sort of much further into their career, 5, 6, 7 years, perhaps want to sort of change their path with their MBA studies. So yeah, the MIM program is, I would say, most of them recent grads, but up to 2 years of experience.
And sort of defining pre-experience, which might even imply that it's, you know, as you come out of your undergrad and then going straight into the master's in management, which in other graduate school programs obviously is an option. Nevertheless, if you have perhaps 1 year of professional experience, you say up to 2, but ideally would there be at least 1 year of professional experience that you're then bringing with you and those experiences to share in the classroom?
There maybe if you look at if you count internships as well, there would probably be maybe around 1 year. You don't have to come, with a full-time job and then quit that after a year and then start your MIM program. But in terms of professional experience overall, it's definitely preferred to come with some business experience and exposure, whether that is through your first job after you graduate from undergrad, you have a year of experience, or whether that's through 3 or 4 internships throughout your undergraduate experience. But it's definitely preferred that you understand the business environment and that you come with some sort of practical experience rather than just academic.
Right. Well, we'll talk a little later on in the panel about how to leverage those internships and that practical experience. Ollie, the P&Q viewers know that I'm still struggling to know which career direction to take, but at the age of 22, I had no idea. I was all over the map. So in terms of, at that pre-experience level, do they need to have their career already worked out?
No, not at all. I think, I was the same when I was 21. I didn't have a clue what I wanted to do and just kind of fell into HE and then really enjoyed it. So we don't expect people to, have a 10-year plan that they're going to follow to the T. But we do want them to have given some thought to their future career. So I guess if they're really unsure, we do have the more general programs like the Masters in Management, which offer a real breadth of knowledge and leave options open to go into a lot of different industries and different roles. And with those programs as well, you can kind of choose pathways, electives to kind of define a path as you go through it. Whereas some of the other more specialized programs like the climate change program, the innovation entrepreneurship are a bit more specific. So for those kind of programs, you probably should have a better idea that you want to go into a specific role. And we do, as part of the application process, ask them to dedicate quite a large section of the application form to their career goal and get them to think about a position that they may want to apply for post-graduation and look at how their skills they already have would help them get there, what gaps they have in that skill set as well, and how the program is going to kind of fill those gaps. So it's making sure that they have an awareness for roles out there and that the program is going to be useful to them to get there.
Right, and as you contrast the sort of broader business skills of the Masters in Management versus, you mentioned climate change, if someone was looking at one of those specialized masters, would you be looking to see sort of environmental activism or some sort of activities, whether during university, college, or in volunteer or community engagement, that would already perhaps illustrate the sort of passion that they have in that area?
Yeah, that would definitely be desirable. For the climate change program specifically, we do the applicants that we do get are so engaged, so passionate about the topic, And we've seen a huge increase in interest in that program, and a lot of them do have experience, working for NGOs, doing on-the-ground conservation, lots of like marine conservation as well. So things like that are definitely key things that we would be looking for and would make applicants stand out. But we understand that not everyone has the opportunity to do that, and they may have just kind of discovered their passion for this fairly recently. So as long as we can see kind of a vested interest, then that's one of the main things that we want to see.
Now, by the time I'm Herr Doctor in Germany, I'm probably in my mid-20s, Stephanie. But for where the Masters in Management, really brings value, I'm sure you see quite a range of undergraduate backgrounds from humanities and life sciences. You have science and technology in the name of the business school. So is there a particular sort of academic background that you prefer, or you're looking for a very eclectic mix?
Actually, everyone is very welcome to apply who really feels that a Master's in Management will add to their profile and will help them to transition to something they aspire in the end. But of course, since you have to be quite strong in some quant courses, definitely we take a close look at someone who perhaps has a humanities background, where in the career, in their studies, that person showed that he or she has an analytical mindset, and can that person prove to us that he or she will be okay in the program, will not cause an academic risk? I guess that's what we like to call it. That is the reason why you can always approach the admissions team with your profile, with your transcripts, asking whether they need to take a GMAT or a GRE, because in those cases, we ask for that to underline that they will be okay in the program.
Right. And then it's, exploration. I mean, the program itself, will give them all sorts of classmates and interactions, the city itself. Do you see that sort of exploration? Once they've applied, they're in the program, then you're encouraging them to really, be adventurous in the career path that they follow.
Oh, absolutely. I really do think that, we are lucky that we have a career services team that is meeting with the students on a very regular basis. So that it's not only scheduled meetings on a lot of topics, but it's also like you can just drop in, so you can always come and ask for advice. But I think that also this very active support with finding internships after half a year, once the students went through the core courses, that helps a lot as well and makes them excited. And we also encourage the students to reach out to alumni, to local startups, to perhaps find their own kind of internship. But of course, we encourage them strongly if they have their own network. Some of them have a very clear career path in mind, and they have already a very clear idea where they want to do their internship and might have already established some relations. Of course, by all means, please go, do what you want. We support you with anything which you think is beneficial for your career path. That is also strongly supported. But I think Berlin is a very, how do you say, it's an environment which is extremely motivating and inspiring. That was the word I was looking for. Yeah.
Right. In terms of inspiring, Stephanie, at London Business School, the MBA, all of your schools have made tremendous efforts in the last 10, 15 years to achieve stronger gender balance in the MBA classroom. The MiM already tends to have a stronger balance. But just for anybody, irrespective of male or female applicants, that perhaps just hadn't imagined business and studying business as being part of their path. Do you find that, what would you say to those individuals that thinking about business, but it certainly wasn't what they were interested in at undergrad? What sort of message would you have for them?
You are still welcome at London Business School would be my message to them. I mean, when the MiM was set up 10 years ago, it really was of the purpose of attracting both poets and quants. And I think that is, the general rule of thumb for most MiM programs. It's not just for people from business backgrounds. And I think as you said, and Ollie said earlier as well, when you are 18, 19 and you're choosing your bachelor's degree, very few people, know exactly what they want to do. So and you probably know a little bit more when you are 22, where you figured everything out. So we do welcome people from all, from humanities, from science, from maths, from business administration, of course, and not the majority, but the single biggest group do come from business administration and economics, I think, on the MiM program. But it is really a program that is designed for everyone. And I think if you look at popularity in general for business education, it's obviously a growing segment. I think many people understand the influence that management and business in general has on all industries, and the skills that you get from these degrees, whether you want to be a consultant or a banker, or whether you want to go and work in an NGO or in healthcare, the skills that you get from a MiM program really applies very, very broadly across all industries.
Right. It was striking, Ollie, talking yesterday to the three alumni of your schools. Preciana had taken the Masters in Finance at Imperial, and of course, I'm sure the sort of specific finance skill sets, but she also reflected on just what she learned about herself, the ability to organize her time, to prioritize. One of her classmates was helping her to prepare case studies. I mean, this is a big part of the experience that you're offering, right? That sort of personal development.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the main takeaways from Imperial, I think, and we're constantly trying to improve the offering that we have in that respect. So we have our careers team, which do workshops on things like team building, resilience. We've actually got a speaker series starting on Friday for our current students called The Business of Being Human, where we've got a range of speakers coming in to discuss topics such as resilience. And on Friday, we have a Paralympic gold medalist. So we're constantly trying to teach them, skills that they can apply in the workplace and just in life in general. And also the Masters in Management students also have to learn a language as part of their program now as well. So we're constantly trying to encourage them to get involved in things more than just the academic side of things, but also the practical skills as well.
Right. And then there are opportunities for leadership. Stephanie, I guess, Berlin, lots of wonderful cultural distractions, Museum Mile and everything else, that sort of dynamic entrepreneurial ecosystem that you were describing, but all of the clubs and the activities beyond the classroom are real opportunities for personal growth and leadership, right? Running some of those clubs.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, they are growing, and every new class that's coming in has a very particular thought about what else is needed as a new club. And so far, I see that there is a strong encouragement from ESMT side. I think last year there was the agricultural club that was founded that was had a strong interest from the incoming MBA class. But apart from that, of course, we strongly encourage the students that across the programs, they come to know each other, support each other, work in clubs together. Perhaps in contrast to the other schools represented on this panel, we are kind of a small school, right? So when you're walking through the hallway, you can be certain people know your name, they know to which class you belong. So, and we strongly encourage to build up the relationships between the different programs, also to have a feeling of belonging, to get into the networking mode, to really find out, what are the others doing, what kind of internship did they do, which project did they do, what is their background, stuff like that.
Right. Well, it might be a small school, but you have very tall ceilings, as the illustration behind you. It's this wonderfully elegant campus setting.
That's true.
That you have.
Not very practical, though.
Right. And at London Business School, you've also taken that space across the road, Stephanie. I guess the old Marylebone Town Hall with the incubator. Clementine was saying yesterday, of course, grades, classes, everything that we learned, but she said if she could start all over again, it was the people and the unexpected conversations. And she applied it not only to, in her case, the classmates of the Masters in Finance, but she was thinking about the Sloan students, the exec MBA students. Stephanie had mentioned the agriculture club that an MBA had started, and just how you can have these conversations. You really get to be part of an entire community, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think that's, you know, a real benefit as well, being a relatively small school as well as London Business School. I don't know, you know, the person that walks past you in the hallway, but it is a very, very close-knit community. And all clubs are shared. So that means that you get to engage with, you know, MBAs, Masters of Finance, Sloan students, and so on, and also in our elective portfolio. So that's completely shared across all degree programs. So as a MiM student, again, you might be learning from a Sloan student or an executive MBA student in your supply chain management elective. And there's many more ways of engaging. We have a mentorship program where MIMs can be mentored by MBAs, or Masters in Finance students will mentor our MFA students. So there is a lot of collaboration, both in the classroom, but also in sort of the more practical social and professional network of London Business School.
Right, right. At Imperial, I guess within the school, the business school's name, there is Imperial College, which implies, you know, as Stephanie was describing, a wider network, and in this case, you know, life sciences, medicine, you know, so many other aspects of. How does that have the potential to influence and really colour the master's student experience?
Yeah, as you know, we are part of a STEM college, and I'm just trying to think of one example. So on the innovation program, we have what's called the Enterprise Lab at Imperial, and these students can use the Enterprise Lab during their time at Imperial, and that is a place where they can go to if they have startup ideas, if they've got prototypes for new products or anything like that. They can go to the Enterprise Lab and they can collaborate with students, not just within the business school, but with across the whole of Imperial. So you can, you know, engage with engineering students, computer science students, and you can collaborate on these projects together and get their kind of cross-disciplinary thoughts on it. And there's a lot of competitions where you can win funding, you can win investment, you can pitch your ideas to panels of experts. So there's a lot of opportunities for things like that as well, with clubs within the business school. And then Imperial, I think Imperial has something like 300 societies that they can get involved with, like anything you can think of. I'm sure there's a society to get involved with, and if not, you could start your own. So there's so many opportunities for things like that, and as if you're just happy to get involved and reach out to people. The
year must go by so fast for these students. I mean,
I know. I don't know how they cram it all in. I really don't.
One of the first things to learn to do is prioritize. I think one of the panelists said, you know, keep those energy levels throughout the year. You try to do everything at the beginning, but it just keeps coming and keeps coming. Stephanie, at ESMT, of course, we talk about networks. Part of the school, and even with its launch, was German industry, and whether it was Deutsche Bank, Allianz, BMW, forget, but there were dozens of you know, major corporations part of that. Does that also then play a role in terms of opportunities that the students enjoy networking with those corporations?
Yes, it definitely does. But I think it is very, very important to perhaps manage the expectations. I guess in the beginning, it was really hard for us to get rid of these expectations. If I join ESMT, I can easily work or move into one of the companies that founded the school. That definitely is not the case. And of course, we are so much more than these companies, right? So I would say that our network has tremendously grown. So it's, I mean, you know about the startup scene that's very vivid and active, and to which we are in various ways connected, to which the students do have access. But that's only one aspect. One aspect, of course, is the very devoted and motivated alumni network that is supporting us in lots of ways, mentoring students, offering jobs, actively engage themselves in various activities, clubs, etc. And there, of course, is also this recruiter network that our career services department could build up. So where a lot of other companies, of course, belong to. So I would say you can really put it into those different groups that I just mentioned.
Right. So 3 fantastic programs. Now, how do we get into these great schools? Talking to one of the intake she'd been admitted to London Business School's program. You obviously thought the world of her, otherwise you wouldn't have offered her a place. And even then she said, I arrived on the first day, everyone was so smart, everybody knew so much, and almost that imposter syndrome of, did they make a mistake? Why am I here? So perhaps Stephanie, at London Business School, you can just sort of talk us through that holistic approach. There's no one thing that gets you in, and there's no one thing that eliminates you, right? It really is a holistic assessment of the candidate.
Yeah, and I think that's, I don't want to say a misconception, but I think some people think that they should put all their efforts into the GMAT or the GRE, and getting a really high score on that will sort of just make us ignore the rest of the application. But it is, like you said, truly a holistic assessment, and obviously there are, because I think as Stephanie from ESMT said, our MiM programs and our other programs are quite quants heavy, so there are some part of the assessment that will focus on your previous transcripts and your GMAT and your GRE. But really we're looking to assess, fit, motivation, teamwork, curiosity of other people and perspectives. And that is a big part of both the application, I would say, with the essay questions we ask and the other questions that we ask, but then also definitely part of the interview. Most of our candidates are interviewed by alumni who've been in their shoes, who understand what the personality of London Business School is and what we're looking for. But sort of those more softer skills, I would say, are equally important to us in assessing whether this is the right person for London Business School, and should be equally important for candidates in assessing whether we're right for them.
Well, let me follow up with you on that soft skill of curiosity, or the characteristic of curiosity. You're a truly international institution, but perhaps at the age of 22, it's not like I've worked in banking in Zurich for the last 2 or 3 years. Maybe there were some study exchanges, or part of my childhood was spent internationally. There are other ways both to show that maybe global mindset, openness to other cultures, and the curiosity that you're indicating. What's your advice to be able to capture and share that with your admissions team?
Yeah, and that's absolutely true. I also think people think that to go to London Business School, they must have lived, their parents must be from 2 different countries. They must have experienced that full set of cultural diversity. And we admit many students who have not had that opportunity. So we're very aware that there are some both socio-economic diversity, and there are some countries where that's just not norm or an option for many people. So then we would look at, diversity within even a country. So diversity isn't just about nationalities, it's also, have you contributed perhaps to gender equality within your country? Have you contributed to the LGBTQ plus community? Are there minorities within your country or your school that you have put effort into raising awareness of? How do you work with other, team members? Do you value the perspective of someone that's different from yourselves, even within a group of students that are perhaps from the same country or university? So I think there's many ways to display that curiosity, but I think it's true, it really goes beyond nationalities and cultural differences. Diversity is so much more than that, and I think we're all very aware of that at the moment, and are trying to do everything we can to increase diversity on different levels than just nationality diversity.
With some of the quant focused courses that Stephanie was describing, I'm sure, Ollie, similar for business analytics or masters in finance, where obviously you want to make sure they can thrive and handle the numbers in the program. But again, perhaps some of those broader skills, things that they may have done at university, in their community, that can speak volumes about things they're passionate about, how they've wanted to really devote and share their time, the impact that they've looked at. Are these sort of the golden nuggets as you're then assessing these applicants and you catch these details in their resume?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I think particularly with the business analytics program, we've just seen an explosion in the number of applications that we received. So it's becoming so selective, and it's a tough job for us because there's so many fantastic applicants. Mm-hmm. So they really do need to have done those kind of things. So extracurricular activities, anything kind of social impact projects that they've been a part of, entrepreneurial activities, anything that kind of supports diversity and inclusion as well. those kind of things really, really stand out to us and are things that we really look out for. So anyone who's got experience like that or has the opportunity to get involved in anything like that, I'd encourage you to do it, because that really will help you stand out in a really crowded market. And of course, we do still, we need to see that you've still got the quantitative skills, but we do sometimes get people who say, I've got a 3.9 GPA and I didn't get in, and they're surprised, but they haven't done anything other than that. So it's not kind of the be all and end all. You do need to be kind of a well-rounded student, have kind of a global outlook, and be willing to listen to other perspectives and take that on board. And that's the kind of well-rounded student that we would be looking for.
Right. As we take that CV or the resume, as Stephanie in Berlin, an added layer, of course, are these voices of recommenders that can add the color beyond the bullet points of responsibilities perhaps that you've had, to really share insights and perspectives. So I guess to two questions: who for the Masters in Management would make a good recommender in that substantive close relationship that they've had with the applicant, and also how do you measure culturally? Because of course the language that an American recommender might use, where everything is just awesome and the greatest, versus, I don't know, perhaps a recommender from Finland who begrudgingly says his or her performance was quite satisfactory, which in Finnish terms means that it was off the charts good. So you must get quite used to even the cultural nuances of these voices that emerge in the letters of recommendation.
I think what you said about the Finnish recommender, you can apply to the German recommender as well. So
tough audience, right?
yeah, we cut down on the recommendations in the MiM. We are only asking for one recommendation because, we thought that, usually people have a bachelor's degree, might not have that much work experience. So of course, you can always ask a professor at your university, but sometimes if the professor hasn't worked very closely with you, I do not think that this makes so much sense. So ideally, you have done an internship, because we are very much appreciate, even if you have just graduated, if you have some practical experience by having done internships in the past, and hopefully the applicant has worked closely enough with that person so that that person is able to tell a bit more, not just it's a great person, but like how does that person work in a team environment where there's some international aspects, or how socially responsible is that person. So there are some questions in the recommendation form where the recommenders have the opportunity to fill that in. And I always ask also for the areas of improvement, which does not have to be a bad thing, because come on, we're all not perfect. You're not starting a program because you know it all, then you wouldn't need to apply, right? So there are certain things that you still would like to add to your profile and that you would like to learn. So please explain us a bit, where are the challenges for that particular applicant? So I guess that's what how we usually take a look at those recommendations. What I also think is a good thing, I personally do think that. So if you have a recommender, and you want him to write a good recommendation, share with him the motive, if it's possible. I know a lot of people are very busy, but if you can have a conversation about why are you applying to that school, what are your expectations, how do you perceive yourself, get into a conversation. And I think that might really help the recommender to write a well-rounded recommendation, which in a way reflects that you had a conversation and that there is a relationship between the two of you, which might be end up in a great recommendation then.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And Stephanie at London Business School, can you tell when some people are dismissive of the recommendations? Well, you'll choose someone that's going to be enthusiastic, that's going to make those general very positive statements about you. Can you instantly tell with a recommendation when it has that level of sort of intimacy, or clearly it's about this person?
Yeah, I think that can come out in some of the, I guess, examples of the questions that we asked. Where do you know this person from? How have you worked with them? Can you give us an example of when they performed well on a team or on a project? So if the person didn't know them well, obviously they might not be able to give sort of detailed answers to that. And I think especially also on the improvement side, like Stephanie was saying, we ask for strengths and weaknesses in development areas. And again, if someone hasn't worked with them very closely, then they probably wouldn't be able to add a lot of detail into that. And then I also think that if everything's just like rosy and great, then you also maybe question how well this person does know them, because like we all know, everyone has areas for development. And I think that's absolutely fine. That's why we ask, there's nothing wrong with stating that.
Right, that's right. If we all had the answers, as Stephanie was saying, then why do we need to go back to school? So obviously the last year has made campus visits far more challenging, and it would be great to take in the V&A Museum or the Science Museum, Ollie, sort of catching the Norman Foster designed building. So for each of you, Ollie, let's start with you. What you think are effective ways for an applicant to really get to know you as a school, through info sessions, reaching out to alums? What are some of the opportunities in this current pandemic situation that might be really helpful for people to get to know the institution?
That's a good question. As you pointed out, info sessions is definitely a good way to, meet the admissions team, the recruitment team, and kind of get a better idea of the program offerings and specifically what the requirements are and that kind of thing. But I guess if they want to get to know the school more, you would be best speaking to current students or recent alumni. So if anyone goes on the Imperial website, we have UniBuddy, so you can speak to our current students on there. I'm sure if you reach out to any of them on LinkedIn, they'd be more than happy to offer you some advice as well. We do have alumni events as well that are virtual at the moment. So just have a look on the website and see what events we've got going on and reach out to people. I'm sure everyone would be happy to point them in the right direction.
Right. And in terms of Berlin and the setting too, right? Because it is a year where you're taking in both, this learning experience and the cultural experience too. So, Stephanie, what do you think can be very illustrative for applicants that want to get to know the ESMT?
Oh, you can always go for the virtual tour, but if you're not a big fan of that, which I would understand, and since we're now having the COVID-19 situation, I would strongly recommend to, if you're really interested in the school and the program, any program you're interested in, take your time to let things sink in, to give you the opportunity to allow a well-rounded perception to shape up. And how do you achieve that? Like Ollie just said, right? You get in touch with current or past students. So if you are in doubt, how can I reach out to them? Ask the admissions team. But through LinkedIn, you have ample opportunities, and our alumni are usually quite accessible. But we have, of course, also student ambassadors who are happy to schedule calls, video calls, chats, you name it. So you can do that. There is a YouTube channel you can watch, because it is nice to speak to alumni and students, but of course, they like the school. And some of them, of course, they give you a unique perspective. They are not only exclusively positive, they point out perhaps some, not so good things that they might have experienced in the past as well. But I think it is good to use several sources to form kind of a well-rounded picture. I think that would be a good idea. Yeah, and with social media nowadays, I guess you have ample opportunities to come to, some detailed information about the schools and the programs.
Well, that sort of a positive impression that the students and alumni have, which only speaks to the quality of the experience that they had with John Byrne when we host these events. Of course, we've been champions of business education. It feels like forever, and we've been going a long time. There was a statement from one of the alums yesterday. She said, "I know it sounds a cliche, but it was the best year of my life." I've heard that a lot, from so many individuals. So, Stephanie at London Business School, why is it the best year of a person's life? We can't tell what the other years were like, but what is it that makes this graduate school experience such an exciting and effervescent experience?
Yeah, I mean, we've often used the word transformation, which I think this business school experience can really be on so many different levels. But I think it really is like a culmination of so many things. It is for many students a brand new social life and a massive new network. And how many times realistically do we go through that in our lives where we get, 500 to 2,000 new people in our close network within a year? And that I think is a big part of it. And I think that, yeah, the social aspect, cultural aspect, all these perspectives, opportunities to learn from, students and the inner workings of Japan or like Brazil, all these things that people probably don't have access to in their, teens and their early 20s. And all of a sudden they're just bombarded with cultural perspectives. And then I also think, obviously, other than the academic and the technical skills, so much confidence comes with business schools. I think it was Ollie who spoke about the skills portfolio as well that I think we all have. It's not just about learning like the technical skills of strategy or corporate finance. It's about understanding who you are as a professional, where you want to be, and all these intangible skills that will make you a better leader in the future and a good people manager. And all this confidence that comes with that, I think, can be hugely transformative to many students. But that was just a few examples. I'm sure there's many more of why this experience is so great.
Right, and that transformation, Ollie, as you think about reading this application on a screen, or if you've printed it out and trying to get a sense of the individual, and then when you've met them at the end of the program, is it really striking? Those great potential there, determination, grit, other things, and then when you sort of see them at the end of this chapter of their journey, it must be a wonderful feeling. Is it striking, the difference?
Yeah, it is. I think that's one of my favorite parts of this job is that, you're just constantly meeting these new inspiring people who are only in their early 20s and have already done such incredible things, and kind of helping them on that journey, and then seeing them then go on after that and go and work for all these amazing companies is really, really rewarding. I remember once we had an event. We have like a welcome event at the Natural History Museum for our students. You get to have a party in a massive blue whale skeleton. It's like a highlight for us every year. And I remember a student came up to me and was just said, "Oh, you're Ollie, aren't you?" And I didn't know him I knew him by name, but not by face. And he was just like, "Oh, thank you so much for, helping me get here." And that's really nice to see. And then once they kind of meet their cohort as well, and they're all from such diverse backgrounds and have different perspectives, they can learn from each other as much as they learn from what we teach them as well. So I think it's just a really nice experience for them to go through. And as Stephanie said, how often do you get the chance to potentially move to a new city, new country for a lot of them as well, and experience that together? It's really must be really nice for them.
Yeah, Stephanie, at the ESMT, I mean, your job title talks about head of admissions, but sort of unlocking potential is what Ollie describes. Do you have sort of favorite stories, or even as you think about just an individual and the sense of purpose that they brought, or the impact that they were hoping to have, and how that has been unlocked with what they've then been able to achieve?
I mean, every year when I'm participating in graduations, and I mostly participate in MBA graduations, so that might be a bit beside the topic, but what I see is this sense of community that suddenly built up, and the friendships that came into existence, and I think that will last longer than just the year, right? But I also see with some students, and I know that they had very high expectations when they were coming in. Some of them were very nervous. I mean, for example, in Germany, if you want to work in a certain area, you would need to speak German on a fluent level, but you might have started the program without any skills, but you put a lot of emphasis into it and you came to a nearly fluent level until the end. And to see that somebody managing this next to this extremely demanding schedule that they're doing, and then they just land their first job and it's really according to their expectations, that makes me really, really happy. That is something that's really the best. I mean, yeah, it's just nice.
Yeah, no, it must be fantastic job satisfaction to be able to witness that. So it's graduation day. It's graduation at LBS, at Imperial, and at ESMT. And we're just listening to some of the excited conversations. You talk about transformational, Stephanie. If you think about the London Business School experience on graduation day, what do you think would be 2 or 3? I'm going to ask the same question of each of you. So the other 2 are lucky; they get to think about their answers. But what would perhaps be the 3 characteristics? We'll limit it to 3 that might be in their minds having reached graduation day at LBS.
So like the thing
that sort of describe
stood out to them.
Really describe the London Business School experience.
So I think you mentioned just before that Clementine yesterday had said the people, and that is also what I noted. I think it's the people, it's the network, it's the different perspectives, it's the lifelong friends and colleagues that they gain. I would say that's definitely sort of one of the biggest ones. And then I also think I do think that this sort of very practical and applied learning aspect of London Business School is highly valuable to our students. It's not just academia, it's about them learning through academia and through some of our courses how to actually apply that in real world. So again, I think they leave with a very good sense of what it is that they need to go and do to be successful individuals, and they haven't just read it in books, they've also actually worked on it in some of these like practical sessions that we do. And then I'm also going to say London. I think for some of our students have obviously, lived here before, have done their undergraduate here, but London is a truly cosmopolitan, metropolitan city that in many ways reflects London Business School, Imperial as well, of course, with all the different nationalities and different backgrounds that people come with, and just opportunities to pursue anything you want, both professionally and socially and culturally as well. So lots of opportunities in London, and of course, easy access to the world. So those would be my top 3.
So this isn't one of those radio shows, Ollie, where the rules are if another panelist has used one of the answers, you can't say the same thing. So London, I guess. For you, sort of 3 characteristics that really distinguish the school and the experience.
Yeah, I think it does depend on which program they've studied, because they all have kind of different aspects that are special to them. So I think if you ask the Masters in Management student, they might say about the Leadership in Action module that they have, which is a very experiential module, and it kind of has experimental techniques that they use. I think they take them to an equine workshop where they have to try and communicate with horses and to try and understand their own communication style and how they would be as a leader and that kind of thing. So that's a really interesting kind of out of the box experience for them. I think there's international projects as well that they do where they might be put into a culture that they're really unfamiliar with, and they have a week to do a real life consulting project. They have to work in teams. It's like a very high stress environment. And they see how they interact in that kind of situation, and it kind of reflects the situations they might be in the workplace in the future. And I think they do learn a lot about themselves and each other from those kind of experiences. I think if you ask the climate change student, they would say, they have a whole guest lecture series where every single week they have someone coming in who's an expert in that particular field from different industries. So this year, so far, they've had Tom DeLafe, who's a chief executive of the Carbon Trust, Jessica Alsford, who's executive director and head of sustainability at Morgan Stanley. So these people have lived the experience of working in that field and have just the wealth of knowledge. And they also sit on the advisory board for that program. So they're directly influencing the stuff that's been taught on those programs as well, to ensure that it's as relevant and up to date as possible. I think that's 3. But as Stephanie said, just being in London in general, kind of the Natural History Museum parties and that kind of thing as well also make it.
I'm sure that Layla and Joel are trying to persuade Greta and David Attenborough to show up for graduation at some point.
Definitely.
We often use the word incubator within the context of business school for entrepreneurial ideas, but it strikes me, from what all of you are describing, the year itself as an incubator, for that learning, whether you're face to face with a horse and the voice that you might use to reassure them. That sort of practical application, you actually get to test these ideas and these skills in that sort of practical application. So Stephanie, at ESMT, 3 characteristics that you think really are very distinct to the school?
Yeah, okay, I already said it, so I'm afraid I have to repeat myself. Of course, the sense of community, the working together in a collaborative setting, that's very, very essential and important, I guess. The feeling as a family that creates, of course. So that would be one. I think being supported and respected, because we are quite small, so there is high level support by staff and faculty. So that is something which is very unique, I would say. So you have easy access, you can talk to anyone, anytime. I mean, of course, not anytime, but you have the feeling that people are easy accessible, definitely. And last but not least, I think what I find personally amazing are the social responsibility projects that we're having, like the Responsible Leaders Fellowship, which is actually accessible to anyone, but also a fundamental part of the Masters in Management program is the Social Impact Project. So a lot of students like Shruti, for example, they went abroad, they went to Africa, they went to South Sudan to work on some projects for NGOs. And I think that is life-changing experience that a lot of our students, not everyone, but a lot of students participate in and really have the feeling that it is really something they will not forget easily and they benefited from. Yeah.
Right. So I'm absolutely convinced, and of course, for many reasons, wish I was 22 or 23 all over again. Perhaps just finishing with next steps, both for the incoming September class, but even planning for the year ahead, and our viewers will perhaps be at different stages. Stephanie, is it still time to apply for the class start in September, or would an applicant perhaps, certainly that requires GMATs and other components, but might they be also well served, to start their planning for the year ahead?
Yeah, I mean, we still have 2 rounds left for all of our pre-experience programs at London Business School. So if this is your first, research beginning phase, then yeah, I still say you can still make it this year. If you need a little bit more time, do it next year. That's very personal, I think, when people are ready for it. But don't rule us out this year. We still have 2 application rounds left.
Yeah, this is where we flash up www.london.edu and what's the final round deadline, just so that we know.
Yes, 28th of May.
28th of May. Okay, so
yeah,
it's
on our website. Yeah.
Right, great. And Ollie, I mean, a range of programs, and I don't know if you're working on application deadlines that are common to all of them.
No, well, for most of them, they just have rolling application deadlines, and they're kind of open. They'll be open until at least May, and some of them even beyond that. But I think for the Masters in Management and the finance programs, they do have rounds. I think we'll probably be going into round 3 now, but it's definitely not too late. So yeah, if you are interested or have any questions, we'd be happy to guide you through that process.
Fantastic. And Stephanie, the MiM has a September class start versus the MBA in January.
Exactly.
So there are still deadlines that our viewers can meet for this year?
Yes, sure. We are accepting on a rolling basis, but I think that on June 1st is the last deadline for international students, while for applicants that do not require a visa, they can apply until, I just have to look it up. They can apply until August 30. Yeah, that's quite late.
Email, but Stephanie said it was until this date, and then
it's on the website. It's on the website, so I have to blame Rick for it if it's wrong. No, it's August 30.
I talked about the sort of the just the energy and the passion that your alumni shared. I can see why people will reach out to you and your colleagues. You're just incredibly encouraging and warm, and so thank you for taking the last hour to be with us from whether you're at home or on the campus right now. I think it's really, really valuable for any of our viewers. This will get lots and lots of views in the days and weeks that follow. So those deadlines you've also shared will be precious. Great ambassadors for your school. Stephanie and Ollie, thank you very, very much for joining us at the Centre Court Specialised Masters Festival.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Stay safe and well.